I just watched Attack on Titan Season 3, Part 1 for the first time, and man, do we have some things to talk about. But before we dive in proper to the rambling, I just want to get a couple of things out of the way. So, if this is your first time tapping in with me on my Attack on Titan journey, this video is basically just going to be me stream of consciousness talking about the season or the first part of the season, my thoughts, reaction, and my wildest theories. But because this is my first time with Attack on Titan, I haven't read the manga either. This is very disorganized because I have just been enjoying this as my first experience with it. Meaning, I'm not going back to rewatch episodes to really like make sure I'm understanding everything. I'm not taking notes or anything like that. So, because of that, this video is just going to be really disorganized. It's just going to be stream of consciousness, me talking about things as I remember them and probably just randomly jumping around from one thing to another. So I apologize for that because that doesn't make for the best video. But again, just in terms of enjoying my first time through this as much as possible and trying to avoid spoilers as much as possible, I just decided to do it this way. And also, in an effort to avoid spoilers, I am not going to be reading comments on this video until I fully finish Attack on Titan. But do please still comment because I will circle back to these videos once I am caught up. And I'm really excited to see what you guys have been saying. So with that out of the way, let's talk about this first part of the season. All right, per usual, I don't even know where to begin, so I guess we'll start with just general thoughts. I enjoyed this first part of season 3. I had a bunch of people, well, not a bunch of people, but I had some people tell me that this was the worst part of Attack on Titan, and I don't feel that way at all. I mean, I've enjoyed every part so far. I mean, I guess technically some part has to be the worst, even if they're all good. But this didn't feel bad to me at any point. I could understand maybe some people not being interested in getting away from Eren for like the entire first half of the season and like focusing on the political intrigue and stuff, but I was here for it. I really enjoyed that actually because if you've seen my previous videos, you know one of the things that I'm most interested in is the world building and the mysteries, and these first 12 episodes really gave us a lot in that regard. So I enjoyed it. I also had people tell me that this was the worst adapted part of Attack on Titan, and I can see that. I mean, I haven't read the manga, but I can see that because in the watch parties, and if you haven't come to one yet, you still got some chances. We'll talk more about the watch party at the end, but in the watch party at the start of this season, I was asking a bunch of questions. I was being like, wait, am I supposed to know what like what's going on here? Or wait, did I miss something? And I hadn't missed anything. It was just a bit clunky in how they were treating the timeline for that coup and all the political stuff that was happening at first. Now, once we reached the finish line, everything had fallen into place and it all made sense. But I can see where maybe the adaptation was a little wonky, and that's what people had told me. And specifically, shout out to Pandacroft in the Discord, who's been filling us in as we go about like what was different from the manga without spoiling or anything. So thank you for that. But I know a lot of people suggested like, hey, read the manga for this part, like, or at least, you know, supplement your watch with some manga reading. And I don't doubt at all that the manga handles this way better. And I'm sure the manga handles everything way better because that's typically the case for anime adaptations. But I'm not going to do that. I might pick up the manga down the road after I finish Attack on Titan. And I do think I would like to do that at some point. But like I alluded to at the start of this video, just in terms of having like the most pristine first watch experience, I just want to see what the anime has to offer start to finish. And then I'll go back and, you know, check out the manga and whatever, this and that. So anyways, all that to say is that I enjoyed this first part. I thought it was really good, in fact. And a lot of interesting things to sink our teeth into, which is what this video is mostly going to be about, like my crazy theories building upon what we talked about in season 2. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about more in general stuff. I thought the character work was really good this season. We got some really, well, Aaron and Historia, excuse me, had some really interesting stuff, but that was really toward the end of the season. And really all the side characters got so much development in the majority of this season. And I enjoyed it. Obviously, we got a lot from Levi. We found out about his uncle, Kenny Ackerman. And Kenny, what a great character, man. So much depth in such a short stint of screen time, honestly. But loved that and loved all the mysteries that came along with that. Again, we'll get into it. I'm trying to think what else in terms of general stuff here. Maybe nothing else. I'm sure I'll think of things as we keep going here, but the bottom line is I really enjoyed part one, and everyone is telling me part two is way better, so I can't wait to see what that means. So now we've reached the part of the video where it's just going to go completely off the rails because I'm just going to talk about things as I think about them, and we're probably going to wildly jump around in terms of subject matter. So again, apologies for that. But I know the first thing I wanted to talk about was the reveal of how Titans gain new powers and also how Titans gain their sentience, because we know that there's a bunch of mindless Titans, and then there's what I'm just going to refer to as vessels, aka people like Aaron, people like Reiner and Bert, etc. Right? So we know that, or I don't know this, but my assumption would be that the vast majority of Titans are the mindless kind, and then it's ones with special powers that get to retain their humanity and shift back and forth. Well, we found out that if a mindless Titan eats a vessel Titan, like if a mindless Titan were to eat Aaron, then that Titan would then become a sentient vessel Titan themselves. And basically, if we think about being a sentient vessel Titan as a power, then we can extrapolate this to just how Titans work in general, because we know if a Titan eats another Titan, they gain their powers. So if a mindless one eats an Aaron, they become an Aaron, right? Or if an Aaron eats an armor Titan, he now has armor capabilities, which is what happened in this season. So I thought that was very interesting and makes a lot of sense. It fills in a lot of gaps on Ymir's storyline and her 60 years of wandering. And it also makes sense on why Aaron was not killed and or eaten by Annie, Reiner, or Bert, because they want the power that Aaron has to go to somebody very specific, I would assume. What's also interesting, though, is that if a Titan eats a vessel Titan, like if a mindless Titan were to eat Aaron, that forcibly shifts them back, which is interesting. Because that, I don't know how this will come into play necessarily, but it's interesting. You can basically force a Titan to devolve by having them consume another Titan, right? Anyways, so was nice to know. So it makes me wonder, like the mindless Titans. Let's just use Ymir as an actual example here. We know that she was a mindless Titan after she was banished from the city, wandered for 60 years until she ate Reiner and Bert's friend, and then she regained herself, right? So my question is, in the 60 years in the interim, are mindless Titans like completely dissolved within their bodies? Like, did Ymir exist as a human, just like in a comatose state in the back of that thing's neck, or did she only reform once she ate Reiner's friend and stole the sentient power from them? I don't know, because I would think that if actually, I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. I think it could explain the time dilation if the body like completely dissolves and then reforms. That's why Ymir hasn't aged in the 60 years. And maybe this isn't even something worth dwelling on too much. Um, but it's just very interesting. And I wonder like what what designates a mindless titan versus a sentient vessel titan in the first place? Is it just these bloodlines that have had a huge impact on this season, like um, the Rice family, the Ackermans, the several other bloodlines? And I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I'm wondering if those people are the ones that become the sentient titans and everyone else is a mindless drone, which would kind of make sense thematically because everyone else is molded by the Rice family's wishes because their memories can be altered. And so in a way they're all very mindless, without any agency. So maybe that's why they become titans of a similar stature. So that would make sense to me. And it's not as if this is like a groundbreaking theory or anything, but that's my working theory for now, that the vast majority of people become the big dumb ones, but the sacred bloodlines become the ones that can actually control themselves. Honestly, a major focus of this season seems to be this conversation on free will and agency, and how the higher ups, the powers that be, are trying to strip that from those beneath them so that they can retain all the power and do what they want with it, right? And I shouldn't just say this season, that seems to be a theme of the show as a whole. You know, we've talked about, or I've talked about in season one, the idea that maybe one of the things that this show is going to be about is kind of this class warfare and this the imbalance of the societal structure. And it really seems to be that that's exactly what it's about. And again, the mindless titans and the powerful titans is a perfect parallel to like the powerless in society and the royal family and ruling class. And I talked about this in my previous videos, but it's just such tight storytelling, which I is why I'm sure a lot of people love Attack on Titan and why I've been enjoying it so far. Because not only do we have a very nuanced exploration of these complicated things, but it's also just woven so well into the narratives of all of the characters, and not just the main characters. Like we talked about, like Eren took a back seat for 90% of this arc, but we have all of these deep side characters exploring these interesting things, and it's just all done very well. Um, before I get away from the Mindless Titan Ymir stuff, one other thing I wanted to touch on is in my season 2 video, I talked about how I thought that when Ymir ate Reiner and Bert's friends, they must not have been Titans yet. But now I know that they were. They had to have been because Reiner and Bert's friend must have been a Vessel Titan because that's what caused Ymir to be able to return back to her human form. So that opens up some new questions for me because why didn't Reiner and Bert or the guy that got eaten himself transform into a Titan to fight back there? They all seemed very green, very caught off guard. And so I'm wondering, well, maybe they were all Titans, but perhaps didn't even know it yet. Or if they knew it, they just still didn't have any experience with it yet. But I just can't imagine Reiner, the soldier that he is, being so like caught off guard by seeing his friend eaten there. So it makes me wonder if maybe he had the power, but he just hadn't been trained yet. I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, why wouldn't they have transformed? So I'm guessing that maybe their indoctrination, their mission all started after that moment, and maybe that's what kind of galvanized them to volunteer for this mission or something. I don't know, but there's just so much to dive into here with Reiner and Blondie Beastie Beast Titan guy. Which, if you didn't see my season 2 video, that's what I call the guy in the Beast Titan, Blondie Beastie. I still think he's a royal, but well, I'm getting way too far ahead of myself. So that happens. Reiner and Bert volunteer for this mission to. Okay, sorry for the rambles. In my season 2 video, I talked about what exactly did they want, because we know that they were busting down the walls trying to destroy humanity, but then Reiner says, Eren, we don't have to do that anymore if you come with us. So now that I know a bit more about the coordinate and how Titan powers are stolen from other Titans, it obviously seems to be that that's what they wanted. They wanted the coordinate. So once they found out Eren had that, they could just take him back to their people. So I'm wondering if before they knew Eren had it, if the plan was we just have to kill everyone to find this thing. I don't know. Nothing else really makes sense to me, and maybe it's because they know that like the Rice family is hiding, and you know maybe they don't know who is who or who has what, that it was just, well, we got to take out the entire city. That's my best guess right now because I feel like that's the only thing that makes sense for the plan to have changed now that they found Eren. So forgive me, I'm just kind of processing this myself in this moment. But if we assume that Reiner and Bernd and the society that they represent, potentially led by Blondie Beastie, that they don't really know anything about humanity because they've been separated from them for so long, right? 60, 70, 100 years or whatever. Because we know that Blondie Beastie didn't know about the ODM gear. He didn't know that they discovered the neck thing, right? They're very in the dark, which is part of the reason why Reiner and Bert were sent into the city to learn what they could, in addition to taking down the walls, right? So it would make sense to me if that was the plan, like, hey, you two go learn what you can, and also we got to tear down the city and kill everyone inside, because they know ultimately their goal is to get their hands on this coordinate power. And they probably, since they've been so disconnected from humanity for so long, have no idea who actually has it. Even if they know that it's like somebody in the Rice family bloodline or whatever, or some member of the royal family, maybe they they know that like the true royal family stays hidden and the current royal family is just a figurehead. And so it's like, hey, we need this coordinate power, but we have no idea who has it. So we got to tear down the entire city. Like just raised earth strategy, burn it all down, and we will find it that way. That would make sense to me. That's like really the only way to make sense in my mind right now of it. But then Reiner and Bert find out, oh, hey, Aaron actually is the one that has it. So we don't need to burn down the entire city anymore. We can just take him. So I feel like that checks out. But now let's talk about Blondie Beastie a bit, because in my season 2 video, I thought that he was a royal. And what's funny is the main reasons I thought this is because clearly the royals are important. They're the important bloodline with all the powers, right? And Beast Titan is a crazy power that we haven't seen. So I was like, oh, he's probably a royal. But also, it's because he has blonde hair. And Historia had blonde hair. So I was like, yeah, royal. But now that we've met a bunch of the Rice family, like none of them had blonde hair. So I just thought that was funny. But I still think Blondie Beastie is a royal for sure, because I feel like it fills in a bunch of gaps. Because Reiner, Bert, and that society have been disconnected from humanity for so long, how would they even know about the royal families, about Historia, about, this, that, and the other? Well, it would make sense if they had a royal on their side, right? That told them this information. It doesn't have to be a royal. Blondie Beastie might not be one, but I do feel like this would make sense if he was. And if he was, why would he be going against his family and society, right? And here's where I think it gets interesting, because Attack on Titan is very much a cyclical story, right? This is something I've talked about in our first season, where we touched on how the series begins with a young Eren watching the soldiers come home, and then the season ends with Eren, now a soldier, coming home, kids watching him the very same way. That's just one example, right? But like the cyclical storytelling is at the heart of this thing. The entire Rice family mission, we have this coordinate power. We must control the Titans and keep the people subjugated and safe within this wall. And in order to do that, we got to continue this tradition of eating your grandpa to get the power, right? And then, your grandpa ate your aunt and she ate her sister, and so on and so forth, right? It's just a continuous thing that must always go back around. So I'm assuming that at some point in the past, Blondie Beastie was a royal. And I'm guessing he wasn't the one that was meant to get the power, because we know that there's never been an interruption in that. So maybe his brother got the power or something. But very similar to how we saw Rod and Yuri, his brother, when they were kids and their father had the power, the founding Titan power, that they begged him to put an end to all of this. They were like, Dad, like, you have this power, you can control the Titans. Like, why don't you just stop all of this? Because they didn't understand. But the dad, because he has all of this knowledge, has deemed it the best course of action to keep things as they are, keep the Titans roaming around killing people and people subjugated in this city, right? And we know that Yuri, when he inherits the power from his father or whatever, that he continues on that track, even though when he was younger, he was against it. He didn't get it. But when he gets that knowledge, he then understands and agrees that it's the only way. Well, what I'm wondering is if Blondie Beastie in a previous cycle was just like a young Yuri and was like, why are we doing this? This is wrong. We need to use this power to put an end to this. And then his brother, Blondie Beastie's sister, whoever it was, inherits the power and disagrees. They decide to keep on keeping on with their traditions. Well, maybe unlike Rod Rice, who just decided to keep supporting his family and his brother, maybe Blondie Beastie was like, no, screw y'all. This is wrong. I'm defecting, and I'm going to go help the people outside the wall tear this city down. I think it makes sense. Again, doesn't have to be the answer, but it fills the pieces for me nicely right now. So I'm imagining that that's what Blondie Beastie is. He's a defected royal who is trying to make things right by his own standards, at least. And yeah, I feel like that makes sense for now. The main issue I have with all of these ideas is one, I thought that Blondie Beastie was time dilated, and I still think so. Which, what I mean by time dilated is the same way that Ymir was wandering for 60 years. I wonder if Blondie Beastie is also displaced from time, because that could explain why he didn't know about ODM gear and stuff. But like I just said, maybe that's just because they've been disconnected for so long. And if that's the case, if he's not time dilated, then it wouldn't make sense for Blondie Beastie to be from some previous cycle of the Rice family, right? I guess under those circumstances, he would just be a descendant of a Rice that defected a while back. I don't really know which path I'm on. Maybe it's just because it's the first thing I assumed when I first saw Blondie Beastie, but I really like the time dilated idea. And what also plays into that is the fact that Reiner and Bert were so shocked when they first saw the Beast Titan, which makes me think like that wasn't normal. And if that was like their leader that they'd known their whole lives, why would they be so shocked? Now, it could simply be because they saw him out and about and they didn't realize that he was going to be out and about. So there's multiple explanations for both lines of thought. And who am I kidding? Like, it could be something else entirely that I'm not even close to. Um, but these are just the thoughts going through my mind right now. And I know I've apologized like 3 times, and I know some of you are going to be annoyed, but I apologize again for just how disconnected and rambly this video is. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. Like I said, I haven't been reading the comments on any of these videos, so I don't know if people are like, oh my God, like just get to the point, or, just give us the bottom line, stop rambling. But anyways, so thanks for being on this journey with me. So anyways, the bottom line is the thoughts I still like the most is that Blondie Beastie is a royal, is time dilated from the past somehow or another, and is defecting against the royal family and wants to take them all down. Now, another reason I think he is a royal is because maybe he wants to be the one to wield the coordinate. And if Rod Rice is to be believed, only a Rice can properly wield the coordinate. Now, when in the watch party, the first thing I said was, I don't know if I trust that, because it might be true, which would lend credence to the theory that Blondie Beastie is a royal and he's who they want to give Aaron to. But it also could just be a way to subjugate people, right? Just tell them that it has to be a Rice, and that way the Rice family can forever remain in power. So I don't know. What's interesting, and we're rabbit holing here. What's interesting is, if that is true, and it must be a Rice, then what's going on with Aaron? Because we get these few moments where Aaron like is viewing Frida's memories. Like that's like seeping into him, which would make me think that like eventually maybe he gets all of the memories of the world the same way the Rice people do. Or those aren't related, and maybe just that's part of absorbing a previous Titan is you just get their memories and it's unrelated to the Rice coordinate power control. But speaking of the memories, there's something weird going on there, because clearly memories pass down when you eat a Titan or you eat somebody. Because what happened with Aaron, the way that Rod Rice spoke about this ceremony and about how Historia would soon be able to like meet her sister Frida, who was dead, because she was about to eat Aaron, and so I guess she would get the memories. And then Rod, like right before he licks the serum and becomes the Abomination Titan, is talking about like, hey, I'm about to join you guys soon, or like, wait for me a little longer, in reference to his family. So I don't know if that was just like flowery talk about like, soon I'll be in the afterlife with you and we'll all be together in kind of like a poetic religious way, or if there's something more there. Like, is there some altered state of consciousness that either the Rices have because they're part of their bloodline, or that like all Titans have? One of the more intriguing things for me to sink my teeth into right now, like, what is this memory connection thing? Is it purely a product of consuming a person, or is there something else there? Is there some other altered state of consciousness that can be entered post-mortem or post Titan or something? Like, I don't know, like, Is it more than just memories? I guess is the best way to put this. Is it more than just getting the memories of these people? Can you actually communicate with the people that are deceased or the past generations somehow? Because it does largely seem that the coordinate power, when you get the crazy eyes and the knowledge that like you're no longer you entirely, like you are like being taken over to some extent by this first king, by this first founding titan guy, and it's his will that you're enacting. Literally, I don't know, because we know that every member of the Rice family thus far has continued on the same path that the first king has. Is it because with the knowledge they themselves came to that conclusion, or is it because like they're literally being piloted by that guy's consciousness now that they have the coordinate? I don't know, but if it's the latter, it would make sense about this perhaps altered state of consciousness communication realm or something. I don't know. We're going fully off the deep end here, but yeah, very interesting. And it makes me wonder what exactly is going to happen to Aaron, because we know that he's getting these memories. Is he going to continue to get more memories? And will Aaron know the full knowledge of the world? And if so, what decision will he make, right? Because, I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, this is a story. And I don't think Aaron's going to just decide to do the same thing the Rice family has done. It feels like he'll take another route, right? Which I think also very beautifully plays into Kenny Ackerman's whole story about how he wanted to steal the power from the Rice family because he wanted to know, like, he was just so fascinated by Yuri bowing down to him and showing him that mercy and compassion. And he was like, are you that way because you have so much power? Like, because you're operating from such a position of strength, does it allow you that empathy, allow you that compassion? If somebody like me, a piece of trash like me, Kenny Ackerman, had that power, would I become the same way? Would I too choose compassion and empathy? Well, we obviously don't get to find that out via Kenny, but maybe we'll find that out via Aaron. Will he feel the same way about these things? And I'm guessing he won't, which is going to lead to the story of Attack on Titan. But we'll see. And all of that assumes that Aaron can wield the power, which means that it's not just Rice family members that can wield it. Or a little extra twist is that maybe Aaron is of royal blood somehow or another, right? And that leads us into just what the hell Aaron's father was doing. But I don't want to go there yet. I want to talk more about the Rice family for a moment. Okay, I just want to try to piece together the meta timeline that we were presented with here. We know that there was the first king, right? The founding titan that built the walls and started this city and altered everyone's memories. That was like 100 years ago, right? So again, I think I talked about this already. I don't know if I did, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But I'm assuming when that happened 100 years ago, the bloodlines that they could not control, not the Ackermans specifically, but people like the Ackermans, I'm assuming those factions of humanity are largely the ones that were banished and are kept outside the walls because they couldn't be controlled, right? So now we have humanity split into two factions, basically those that can be subjugated and those that can't, that are outside the walls. I'm curious about like what happened before that, right? Because the founding titan is given that name because they like founded the city, I'm assuming. But it seems to be that Titans already existed before that. Otherwise, why did the founding Titan need to build those walls? So like, how did the Titans actually start, you know? And how did these bloodlines get these abilities? Is it just a product of this world? Like, that's just the world building in Attack on Titan? Some families are special. But I'm assuming because the storytelling is so tight, I think there's a huge missing piece that I don't know yet. So big old question mark about what happened in the before times. But then the first king, the founding titan, built the city, built the wall, erased everyone's memories of the truth, and humanity split. Outside the wall, inside the wall. And ever since, that status quo has been kept because of the one person, again, the coordinate wielder, having all of the knowledge and deeming that the best course of action. And so the $1,000,000 question is, what the hell is actually going? What do they know that they think that this situation is the best possible outcome? And I really don't have any good guesses for that at this point, but I think it's obviously a way more interesting and compelling story if there's logic to that, meaning like maybe the Rice family is doing what's best for humanity. I think it'll be complicated. I think it'll be nuanced and not black and white. But I definitely don't think the Rice family is just evil. Like, that wouldn't be interesting if they were doing all of this just to retain power for themselves and nothing more. And I think Yuri Rice at least showed us that because he seemed very compassionate and empathetic. So I do think there is some at least reasonable greater good argument to be made for why they're doing this. But again, I think Aaron will probably choose a different path, and we'll see if that's ultimately good or bad for humanity on the whole. But something that stood out to me that Yuri Rice said, I believe to Kinney, was like, this world is crumbling or something, and I couldn't even make a paradise within these city walls. Meaning, like, been my job as god of this world basically to try to give humanity some peace within these walls, and I couldn't even do that. But the important part was the world is crumbling part, which makes me wonder, like, stripped away from the titans within the walls and everything in the story we've been talking about, it seems as if there might be some other like catastrophic thing happening that's inevitable. And maybe that's part of why Yuri and the Rice family feel like what they're doing is the greater good. But it makes me wonder, what is this inevitable calamity if that is the case? Could it be what's related to the original origin of the Titans? Again, the original origin of the reason the founding Titan had to make the city. Like, what happened in the world to get us to that point? And whatever it was seems to be something that can't be fixed no matter what. So the Rice family is like, well, we're screwed either way. Least we can do is maybe give people some peace in mind for the next 100 years humanity will exist anyway. Um, I don't know. I don't know. There's something there. I don't think I have enough pieces to put it together yet, but I think there's something big about the outside world as the whole that was the spark for all of this happening anyway. And then another really interesting thing is the Titan serum that Kenny Ackerman got that then he gave to Levi. They studied that or whatever back within the walls, and the scientist guy says this whoever did this has way crazier technology than we do. And that's like, hold up, what do you mean by that, right? So like, there's time dilation in this show. We've already talked about it and talked about the crazy storytelling possibilities that opens up. Um, so I previously have just been thinking about like ancient past, but what if there's somehow like crazy future as well? And I guess it wouldn't even have to be like literally the future in a time travel sense, but like what? Okay, I'm going crazy again, but whatever this, if there is some catastrophe that is befalling the world or has already befallen the world, then maybe Attack on Titan is a post-apocalyptic story. And I mean, obviously, I guess in a lot of ways it is. Like, whatever the Titans are is probably an apocalyptic event. But like, what if society used to be like futuristic and not like sci-fi flying cars necessarily, but there used to be a much more advanced society. Something happened, sent the world into chaos, and now here we are, right? So like, could Blondie Beastie actually be from a time that was far more advanced or something, which I think would color his statement of like, oh, what's this? You figured out ODM gear. Like, even though that was new to him, it didn't surprise him, as if like, oh, you guys figured this out. Like, that's where we are in the timeline now. That would be crazy. Anyway, I'm rambling. I don't really have concrete points to make here, but at the end of the day, it just feels like I'm missing a very crucial piece about what happened before the founding Titan founded the city. Um, I'm guessing it was an apocalyptic, world ending style of event that might have been the creation of the Titans to begin with. I don't know. Something gave all of these bloodlines powers. And yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that for now. Next, I want to talk about the Ackermans. First and foremost, I thought it was really cool that like they actually have superpowers, basically. Like that's why Levi, Mikasa, and Kinney are so built different. They're literally built different because of their special bloodline. I liked that, and it makes me wonder, like, what other abilities might the other special bloodlines have? And maybe there aren't any, but I bet there are. So I'm curious about that. But I'm also curious about what caused the original rift between the Ackermans and the Reese family, because we were told that the Ackermans were like the guardians of the royal family. Like that's how that originally came to be. Which again, I don't know what caused all of these special powers and special bloodlines, but irrelevant. It would make sense that like the Reeses were given this power to do this, and the Ackermans were given that power to protect them. Like all part of some plan, right? But we know that they then had a rift and the Ackermans were like persecuted and hunted. But then the families came back together when Kinney and Yuri came back together. So I think the easy answer for what caused the original rift could just be the founding Titan moment where the Reese family decided to wipe everyone's memories. Maybe the Ackermans weren't on board with that. Maybe they thought it was messed up. And so that's when the split happened. I don't know. Again, feels like the easy answer, but it could be something else. Um, so, what I'm interested in is again what the other bloodlines might be able to do, but also who's a member of these other bloodlines, because we know that Levi, Mikasa can't have their memories altered. So, like, if Eren does try to do something, if he unlocks that ability, or if a Reese actually gets the power and they do, we will still have people with agency in the story that may be able to combat against that, which I think is really cool. And that very dynamic might be what was happening in the crazy post-credit scene, but I don't want to jump there yet, but I'm almost just saying this so I remind myself to talk about that. So you guys can clown me in the comments if I never come back to this. But back to the cyclical storytelling of Attack on Titan, and here is where I'm super jumping off the deep end in terms of a wild theory that came to me while I was watching season 3. So, cyclical, right? We've talked about it already, but like there's these things that are repeating. There's these constants in the world of Attack on Titan within this cycle, right? And one is that Ackermans and Reese's go together, right? We know that they started that way, protecting the king. Yeah, they had a rift, but then they came back together with Yuri and Kinney, right? And now, once again, we've got Ackermans protecting Reese's with Historia Reese and Mikasa and Levi, right? But wait a minute. I think the proper pairing is Historia and Mikasa because they're of the same generation, right? So that means which Reese is Levi supposed to be paired with? And you know my main quality for finding a royal is blonde hair. And who has blonde hair? Irwin Smith. And I'm wondering if not, okay, listen, I'm not saying that Irwin is a secret Reese. We already have that storyline with Historia, right? But I think Irwin is a secret special bloodline. Uh, I think it just makes sense. It makes sense. Like all of the special characters in this show seem to be of special bloodlines, and Irwin is like the smartest, best leader in the show. I think it would just make sense, especially because of the whole storyline we got with him this season with his father, the father that somehow knew about the memory manipulation. Now, he called it a theory, and Irwin's whole thing is about trying to prove that right. So it doesn't seem like something they knew, which means, maybe he's not a royal, but I feel like he's likely a bloodline whose memories couldn't be manipulated. And so maybe the story has been passed down several generations, getting muddied in the water a bit, which is why Irwin's father doesn't know for sure, but he has these ideas. So maybe the Reese, or at least the special bloodline that Levi is truly paired with, isn't Historia, but is Irwin once he finds his true purpose. Now, maybe that's just batshit crazy. Or maybe it's not Irwin, and Levi might ultimately combine with Blondie Beastie. Maybe we'll join his side for some reason. I don't know. There's always a lighthouse, there's always a man, and there's always a city. Do we have any BioShock fans in the house? Because I gotta be honest, that's where this is coming from. It just feels too good to say there's always a Reese, there's always an Ackerman. Okay, I just looked and this video is already like 40 minutes long. Can you even imagine if I had tried to do all of season three in one video? Really glad we decided to split this up into two parts. But I'm going to try to wrap things up now. Again, I'm sure there's a million things that are just escaping me right now, but the one big thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned was Aaron's father. What is going on? Like a big part of Aaron's character development this season was him realizing he isn't special, and I really loved that moment of him like being willing to sacrifice his life and have Historia eat him. Loved that. But point is, he thinks he's not special, but I think he clearly is special because we found out that Aaron's father is one of these time dilated people. I don't know if that's fair to say, but he's from outside the wall. And we know that one day he just was found outside the wall and he claims he doesn't remember anything, but I don't know if I buy that. He clearly knows more than most people, but Aaron's father, I believe, similarly probably wandered around like Ymir did for some amount of time outside the wall, then comes in the wall and marries Carla Yeager or Carla, whatever her maiden name is, and has Aaron and whatever, ultimately gives Aaron the coordinate and has Aaron eat him. So like what is his plan? Like who was he in his past life? And, I don't mean literally, but like in whatever time Grisha, is that his name? In whatever time Grisha is from, who is he? Like again, he claims he doesn't remember. I don't know if I believe that. So I'm wondering if he is of one of these special bloodlines as well. And he clearly does not agree with what the Reese family is doing, which is why he takes it upon himself to steal the coordinate, and then he gives it to Aaron. That's the part that makes me the most confused, because why did he give it to Aaron? Why? Like, because it seems as if Grisha was in a far better place to do something about the state of the world compared to his child who doesn't know anything, right? But even with that being the case, Grisha decides, yep, I'm going to make Aaron a Titan without explaining anything to him and then have him eat me so that he gets this power. Like, why is it Aaron's job to avenge the mother in that way? Like, how could he have possibly been the better option? Now, we do know that he told Aaron to go to the basement. So maybe he left a full-on journal that explains everything and, then fine. But absent of that, I just don't understand how Aaron would be in a better position here. Again, unless Aaron is special in some way, that Aaron is capable of something that Grisha wasn't. And I think I touched on this more so in a joking way earlier, but what if Aaron has some Reese blood in him for whatever reason? So maybe he is capable of wielding the coordinate in a way that Grisha wasn't. But like, how would Aaron have royal blood and Grisha wouldn't, right? That would have to mean Carla was special, and she seemingly didn't seem to be. So yeah, I'm just very curious. Like it was also nonchalant. Grisha just took his son out into the woods and had him eat him, right? Like not even like, again, yeah, he said go to the basement, but like not even wrote down on a real piece of paper real quick like, hey Aaron, here's the short version of what the hell is happening, but also get to the basement. Like I know everything's going to make sense once he does get to the basement, but I'm just so curious, like who is Grisha Yeager? Like I feel like he's probably a special bloodline, probably not a royal, but like maybe tangentially or something. I don't know. But again, just why thrust that upon your literal child without more preparation or guidance? There's something there. There's something there. So I think Aaron is special, even though he thinks he's not. But I don't know exactly what that would be yet. Also, speaking of this kind of messed up parental child relationship, we got a lot of that in this series, right? With Historia and Rod, Kenny and Levi, Aaron and his father. Like, we talked about how free will and stripping people of agency was a huge theme in this series, but it also feels like kind of in tandem with that is like sins of the father, right? And kind of inherited trauma and obligation. Also with Irwin, right? Because his entire thing is trying to fulfill what his dad was doing. Reminds me of Kagurabachi because we've been talking about that recently. But yeah, just these kids, man. War is already hell, and we're taking these teenagers and thrusting that onto them. But then, some of them in particular have all of this other baggage that they've just been handed by the previous generation. And they're like, yeah, deal with it. It's sad, man. And given the tone of this show so far, it's not really one where I see it's a hand holding happy ending. So the real question is just like which of our characters are going to get the shortest end of the stick. Um, and this is going to lead me into the post credit scene discussion, but it feels like Aaron is going to make a decision that people aren't happy with. And so I don't see a bright future for Aaron. I guess optimistically, it could be that he wins and a lot of people lose, or I don't know. It's so complicated. Actually, it's so complicated. It's not black and white. But yeah, point of this particular rant is just these kids, man. Like it's just this is a tough life. And real quick, as I'm thinking of things I just wanted to touch on before I wrap this up, I love Historia's character arc here, especially culminating in the moment of her turning away from her trauma that was dumped on her by her father, turning away and breaking the recycle by not injecting and not eating Aaron. And I love the poetry of her coming to that decision, largely based on kind of what Ymir instilled in her. Ymir, this orphan girl who was thrust into this figurehead role of pretending to be a Reese. Like, it's the lessons of that nobody peasant that actually got through to the real Reese and helped break that cycle. I just love that. It's another example of just the really great storytelling in AOT. Another random thing I'm wondering is the government before the coup, so just like the royal families and the figurehead king, when they wanted Aaron, they said that they were going to have somebody eat him to get the coordinate, right? That was the whole plan. Who is that? Who is the government's titan that they were going to have eat Aaron? And is that even going to be a plot point moving forward since the coup did happen and Historia's in charge now? But at the very least, there is another human vessel titan running around that works for the previous government. And so that to me is a Chekhov's gun that we'll see at some point, but I don't know. It also feels like I really enjoyed the whole coup storyline, but it feels like it almost went too well. So I feel like there's another shoe to drop with that, and maybe it's not going to be the easy, peaceful transition of power that everyone hoped, or maybe it will be. I don't know, but there are more secret titans to be revealed within the walls. So I'm interested to find out more about that. And then I almost forgot, but let's talk about that crazy post-credits scene. And shout out to everybody in the community that made sure that I saw that. They're like, hey, no reason, but make sure you watch the final credits. And that was so cool. Like, I love that. Monica infected the system or something for my DDLC folks out there. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. I'm not sure what to make of it though, because like this is one of those things that I'm probably overanalyzing, but could it just be a way to tease part two? Yes, and I think that would be fine, and that was it. Just like a really cool way to tease what's happening. But it wasn't like a normal teaser. It didn't happen after the credits, and it's like, hey, here's a look at what's coming next. No, it was like the weird, trippy, glitchy mid-credits strangeness. So I'm wondering, like, am I supposed to look into that on like an in-universe level? Like meta teaser, nothing else? Or like, is that glitchy, almost fourth wall breaking thing supposed to be something I read into for the narrative? 'Cause it's interesting. It was almost as if like we the viewers were having our memories manipulated the same way that the people in the world of AOT have their memories manipulated by the Reese family. Or maybe not manipulated, but maybe we were like gaining knowledge and seeing glimpses of memories the same way Aaron is of Frida or something. I don't know. Like, I don't know how much to read into it of like cool narrative device or like actual implications within the world. But like I talked about earlier, Aaron does something that pisses Levi off. I think the easy answer for what's happening in that scene is that Aaron has obviously made some decision that goes completely counter to everything they've been working for. Now, what that is, I don't know, right? He did seem to have the Titan things on his eyes, so I'm guessing was just a Titan and maybe killed some people or did something. Maybe he ate someone like intentionally. To steal another power or something. And that, again, I don't know what it was, but it must have been something that just goes against everything they've been working for, which causes Levi to be like, what the hell are you doing? To the extent that he like attacks Aaron, which then causes Mikasa to come at Levi and literally has a blade like to his throat, as if she's contemplating, if not already planning, to kill him for this, which means whatever Aaron did isn't something that's just going to blow over in a couple days when people's tempers settle, right? This is something that Mikasa thinks she might have to kill Levi over, which means there's probably no coming back from whatever he did. I don't know what it would be, but I'm guessing Aaron continues to get Frida's memories and these past Reese people's memories, and maybe Aaron starts to learn the actual truth about the world. And whatever that is makes him maybe not align with like the Reeses, but makes him just go against what they'd been planning. So I'm guessing that's what happens, but I don't know. But certainly a really cool way to tee up this next part of the season. All right, y'all. I know for a fact that there are half a dozen things that I am just completely forgetting to mention here. So y'all forgive me for that. And again, let me know in the comments if there's something glaring. I won't read it for a while, but I'll read it eventually. And yeah, I really wish I could know if you guys were on board for this, just these absolutely insane rambles or not. I don't know. Maybe I'll think of I might pin a comment. So check the pin comments. But hopefully you guys are here for this. This is definitely the longest one yet. I wish I was a bit more organized, but I just don't want to. I want to just experience this show first time through raw first, without going back and rewatching and taking notes. So, again, apologies for anybody who this format really just irks them the wrong way. But hopefully you guys are having fun with it. But again, if you made it this far in the video, thank you. Like, I don't think we're at an hour, but this was a long one, the longest Attack on Titan one yet. So if you can't tell, I'm really enjoying this show. I love digging into a good mystery like this. So I'm having a lot of fun. And if you want to join me on the watch for the second part of season 3, now that I've wrapped up this video, that will be happening very soon. I unfortunately can't give you an exact time because I need to figure that out, and I need to figure out if we're going to watch all 10 episodes at once or if we're going to split it up. But join the Discord. I will obviously put out an announcement in the Discord when I know the time, and I would love to have you join me for that watch party. And then, of course, we'll do a watch party for season 4 too, but we're not there yet. But in any case, y'all, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for being a part of the community, and hope you're having a fantastic day. I'll see y'all soon.